Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a truly explosive debate. On one side, we have these stunning, almost unbelievable claims from government whistleblowers, and on the other, the strict, unbending laws of astrophysics. Seriously, are we looking at literally the biggest cover-up in human history, or just a massive misunderstanding of how the universe works? Let's get into it. Are we alone in the universe, or are they already here? You know, that is the ultimate question we're trying to answer today, and we are going to look at this completely objectively. We'll examine the explosive allegations of a massive government cover-up side by side with the strict, highly skeptical lens of modern science. No taking sides here, just laying out the facts. Here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, we'll look at the alleged 80-year cover-up. Then, crashes, bodies, and nuclear sites. After that, we'll get into the physics of warp bubbles, followed by the scientific skepticism, biology and high G-forces, and finally, we'll ask the big one, where is everybody?
All right, starting with Section 1, an 80-year cover-up? Intelligence insiders allege a massive secret.
Just to make sure we're all on exactly the same page here, the government doesn't really use the term UFO anymore. Instead, they use UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. Why the change? Well, it's to cover the transmedium nature of these sightings. Basically, that means we're talking about objects that can seamlessly travel from space, straight through the air, and then dive right into the ocean. Pretty wild, right? Now, whistleblowers argue that certain intelligence and defense organizations, think the CIA, Air Force, Department of Energy, and major defense contractors, actually form a deeply hidden legacy program. And the claim here is that they operate completely outside of congressional oversight. What's truly wild about this allegation is that they reportedly keep these secrets from sitting presidents. Because these are career bureaucrats, the idea is they treat elected officials as, well, temporary help. They just wait them out until they cycle out of office. Moving on to Section 2, crashes, bodies, and nuclear sites. The physical claims of extraterrestrial encounters.
The narrative painted by these insiders goes way, way back. It all allegedly starts with a recovered saucer at Roswell in 1947. According to the claims, that event actually kicked off a top-secret Cold War technology race with adversaries like Russia and China to reverse-engineer the craft. And that timeline brings us right up to modern incidents, like in 2004 when Navy Commander Dave Fravor recorded some absolutely impossible maneuvers from a tic-tac-shaped UAP.
And this right here brings us to the absolute core of the whistleblower's argument. They are adamant that we aren't just dealing with blurry videos or weird sensor glitches. According to them, in some cases, these crashed crafts actually contained the physical bodies of non-human entities. Let that sink in for a second. Actual physical bodies.
There is also a genuinely terrifying behavioral pattern reported with these UAPs. Intelligence sources say these craft are highly interested in our nuclear capabilities. In one specific alleged incident, a UAP hovered over a Russian ballistic missile base. And it didn't just hover, it supposedly forced the nuclear missiles into an unprompted launch countdown. For 15 agonizing seconds, the base lost control before finally regaining it.
Okay, let's get into Section 3, the physics of warp bubbles, explaining the impossible maneuvers. Remember that 2004 Tic Tac incident we just talked about? Well, during that encounter, military sensor systems reportedly tracked a UAP dropping from 80,000 feet. To put that into perspective, 80,000 feet is essentially the edge of space, and it dropped from there down to sea level almost instantly. So how do you explain that without the thing just blowing up? Intelligence scientists propose that these crafts generate warp bubbles. The idea is that this bubble manipulates space-time locally, perfectly isolating the craft from water resistance or sonic booms. But, and this is a big but, astrophysicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson push back heavily on this. He points out that the laws of physics are exactly that, universal laws. We simply do not see them being routinely violated anywhere in the observed cosmos.
Which leads us nicely to Section 4. The scientific skepticism, a reality check on the evidence.
Here is the core scientific rebuttal to all of this. First off, as Tyson points out, human beings make terrible scientific instruments. We are literally awful at judging distance and speed in the sky. For instance, a bird flying super close to you can look like it's going 500 miles an hour if your brain mistakes it for a jet far away. Add in the possibility of sensor calibration errors, and the data gets really messy. And what about that massive government secrecy?
While skeptics argue the military classifies footage not to hide aliens, but simply to hide the exact hyper-advanced capabilities of our own spy tech from adversarial nations.
Let's turn to Section 5, Biology and High G Forces, why the math spells disaster for biology.
To really put these impossible sudden stops into perspective, Tyson uses the tragic analogy of race car driver Dale Earnhardt. When Earnhardt crashed, his car went from 160 miles per hour to 0 in a fraction of a second. That rapid deceleration created a force of 50 to 60 Gs, and that was enough to instantly snap a human neck, even while wearing a 5-point safety harness.
Now, apply those everyday physics to UAPs. Accelerating from 0 to thousands of miles an hour in a fraction of a second. That doesn't just break bones. The sheer kinetic energy actually physically rips apart the molecular bonds holding biological matter together. So unless these UAPs are piloted by solid metal AI drones, the massive physical forces of these maneuvers would reduce any complex biological alien pilot into, well, nothing more than a pile of goo in the back of the ship.
This leads directly to Tyson's ultimate demand from the scientific community. He argues that eyewitness testimony isn't proof. It's simply a reason to go look for proof. Think of it like this. If a dozen people swore to Congress they saw an elephant, but couldn't actually produce one, that's not science. That's a belief system. Tyson's point is clear. You have to bring out the physical proof, or else this whole thing just remains modern mythology.
And that brings us to our final section. Section 6. Where is everybody? The scale of the universe and the Fermi paradox. We really need to consider the sheer, mind-boggling scale of the cosmos for a second. The universe has 1 trillion galaxies, and each of those has hundreds of billions of stars. Probabilistically speaking, because the universe is absolutely brimming with the exact same common chemical elements that created us right here on Earth, scientists actually agree on one major point. It is almost inconceivable that Earth is the only planet hosting life.
So, if they exist out there, where are they? You know, this is the famous Fermi paradox. Tyson proposes a fascinating, albeit kind of dark, geopolitical answer to this. He suggests that any advanced species with a deep-seated, aggressive urge to rapidly colonize the galaxy will inevitably run out of resources. Just like colonial empires throughout our own human history, they will eventually fight each other over finite planets. The theory is they simply implode on their own desires long before they ever reach our solar system.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we are left navigating this fascinating, deeply polarized space between alleged government secrets, explosive whistleblower claims, and the unbending laws of physics. With 1 trillion galaxies out there, the math almost guarantees we aren't alone. But until someone actually brings out the physical proof, we have to ask, are they hiding from us? Did they destroy themselves? Or are they already right under our noses?